MHA Podcast. MHA Podcast.
MHA Podcast.
Hey, I am hosting this show, Quinn.
I'm sorry.
You are taking the words right out of my mouth. Todd's drooling at the mouth. Let me get you a tissue right here.
I'm worried that he's Nick Foles.
I see the word regression plastered all over his stats.
Well, and I cheated a little bit here.
You bastard, how could you? This is a cheat-free zone, a Tom Brady-free zone, and you're funking it up.
If I want to win a fantasy championship, I don't want my quarterback doing that crap.
I have Theo Riddick in front of.
Okay.
What the
Wow. Eddie Lacy's going to be great. How could you, in your right mind, in your sane mind, Eddie Lacy's going to be great?
I don't like doing it, but I'll agree with Todd. I totally disagree with Todd.
Especially with Quain. I hate drafting next to Quain. I'm just gonna have that bottle of tequila right next to me. See, people should be listening to the show just to strategize around us. It's definitely feeling like June out there with the scorching weather we've been having here in Denver, Colorado the last few weeks, and we're going to keep it hot and sizzling with our first summer edition of the MHA Podcast. Eric Lansing, Mikey Renault, and, of course, everyone's favorite Todd Diamond here to talk some fantasy football. And, fellas, the season is less than 3 months away. How excited are we? We're going to talk about quarterbacks today, but first, you could taste it. It's like delicious fantasy football. NFL will be here soon enough.
I'm ready. I'm ready for it. Football is like it's just like a drug that just will never go away, and it's awesome.
Todd's like, hook it to my vein.
Exactly.
24/7.
Like I'll just I don't care the off season when there's not a whole lot going on. Still, just give me some football. Just give me some talk about football. It's awesome.
Magazines are out.
I didn't see any fantasy ones. See, I bought the regular Athlon. I like Athlon, but it was the regular. I haven't seen any fantasy magazines.
I saw one on Twitter. It was like for the Sports Illustrated one.
Okay.
But I don't know if it was in a different state, maybe. But
I mean, this was before I went to Chicago.
Okay.
So I wanted something to read on the trip. But have you seen any fantasy magazines?
Yeah,
yet?
I saw the ESPN one has, I think, Ezekiel Elliott on the cover.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, there you
I
go.
thought that was the SI one, but I could be. But
he could be on
They
both.
Yeah.
He could be a rebound candidate for sure. And speaking of NFL, one thing, a little banter. Always like to have banter beginning.
Yep.
And I know this isn't really fantasy worthy, but it's awesome talk, and I want to banter with you guys about it. What do you guys think? Terrell Owens not going to his own induction ceremony. Man, it never stops with that guy.
What what the inner Terrell Owens in his head just stop. You got in in the next 10, 15 years, whatever. Nobody's gonna talk about it took you this many tries to get in the Hall of Fame. No, you're a Hall of Famer, and why would you disrespect that? That is the holy grail of football, and you're just spitting on it.
So you're saying he's doing it because he's upset he wasn't in as a first ballot?
Yep, pretty much.
What do you think about all this, Miguel?
I think there's some of that to it. I also think it's just him just being him, just trying to be different. But I mean, he's an idiot.
Yeah, but there's being different, and then there's, like you said, and there's being an idiot, and he's being or in his case being Terrell Owens, and that to me, I think that is just total disrespect of the Hall.
But he's doing what he always does. He's making it about him. He knows that by him not being there, it's going to take the shine off of everybody else that's being inducted, and everybody's going to be talking about him, and he's going to
where is he?
Yeah.
Is there going to be a live feed? Because you kind of mentioned when we talked about this first about this whole thing was that maybe he didn't have enough money to be able to bring his family out. Because you want to bring your family out.
Yeah.
You want to. They always show shots of the family, the coaches, whatever. I don't know how much he has to pay for that, if at all. But maybe he doesn't have enough money to be out there. I don't know how much that plays a factor, but if, let's say he still has a chance to change his mind, and maybe he's just doing this to get everybody talking about him, whatever, he's succeeding because we're doing it right now. But let's say he doesn't go.
Okay.
Do they even have any kind of, mention of him? Now let's mention him. Here's Terrell Owens. He's going to the Hall of Fame. He's not here. Someone takes like you mentioned, maybe Steve Young or someone who's going to be there anyway to take off, shows the bus, take off the towel, show the bus, and that's it, move on. Make it so little about him. Do they even mention him? Or even, I don't know. There's got to be some, discipline. You can't make it a big scene, right?
No, ESPN will. I mean,
Yeah.
loves some T.O.
Chris, they'll put Chris Berman up there for sure. But the thing is, they're going to have to. I think they at least have to say, okay, they'll go through everybody else first, obviously. They're not going to just be Terrell.
They should bring him out. His thing should be done first. Like,
Okay.
oh, yep, Terrell Owens, here's his bust, next. Like, that's all it should be.
Yeah, but
I don't want any, like, shots of him at home. I don't want any, like, pre-shot, like, acceptance speeches.
You don't want to.
I don't want to see any of that.
See the gold jacket arriving via like a FedEx.
No, I don't want to see that either.
But is there going to be? Is there
it's
gonna,
very disrespectful.
Is there going to be like a protest of all the other Hall of Famers? They're going to be like, no, don't give this guy a gold jacket. He wasn't
I
even
don't
here.
know. It's supposed to be like a time, like a fun time.
Yeah,
an
that's
exciting time. But whatever. That's Terrell Owens. That's him. Are we surprised? No. It's shameful.
No.
Yes. So I just wanted to get your thoughts.
He
on
dropped
that.
the ball.
Yeah, he
There
dropped. He dropped the ball.
Well done, Miguel. Well done. Didn't even have to set him up for that. He was all ready for it. All right, so coming up on today's MHA podcast, some exciting, positive fantasy football news. We're going to talk about quarterbacks, the signal callers, the gunslingers, the rocket launchers. We go over our rankings as of this day in June. We'll go over some sleepers and, of course, some busts, our possible MVPs maybe. We'll argue about, we all came up with rankings, kind of around the 30 area. We weren't going to talk about everybody, but why Todd thinks about this guy so high when Mikey thinks him this low. So we'll argue. Everybody likes to listen to arguing, right? Of course. And you guys can go out there, tell them why they're wrong and you're right, and this is what I believe. I don't care what you think. So we'll talk about that as well. But first, we got to get to those, of course, news and notes.
Extra, extra, read all about it. Extra, extra, read all about it.
And, of course, I'm excited for news number one, and that's Brandon Marshall. Hey, how about Brandon Marshall back in the NFL?
Quick snap and a quick pass right, caught by Marshall down the sideline across the 50. He's at the 40, right sideline 30, to the 20, 10, 5, stiff arm, touchdown.
Super exciting. He's a Seahawk now. He spent all of 5 games wearing the Giants jersey before he suffered a season-ending injury. The former Bronco, former Dolphin, former Bear, and former Jet. Marshall signs a 1-year deal with Seattle. With incentives, can get up to $2 million. Russell Wilson is now a starting quarterback. Mikey, tell me, what kind of numbers do you expect from Brandon Marshall? Can we see 100 catches again?
No way in hell. No way in hell. Come on, dude.
Is that just my love for the guy that thinks that?
Come on.
Okay.
All right. So your best case scenario is he's weapon number 2 behind Doug Baldwin.
Okay.
Okay. And just kind of looking over some things over the past couple years for second receivers on Seattle. You're seeing an average of around 40 catches, 600 yards, and maybe 4 touchdowns for that guy.
Maybe.
So, I mean, just on that cusp of maybe being fantasy relevant, but not really, and that's his upside. Like, my bold prediction for him is I don't think he makes that at training camp. I think they cut
Get
him.
out. You think he gets cut?
I think he gets cut. I mean, he's 34 years old, going into his 13th season. He's coming off of an injury, which he's still not back from yet. He missed the mini camps.
Right.
The whole thing that Seattle tried to do this offseason was change the culture in their locker room because it was getting bad. And you bring in Brandon Marshall, I just don't see how that helps it any.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Like there's probably better wide receivers undrafted wide receivers that are probably better than Brandon Marshall that you could take.
So neither one of you guys are thinking about drafting him on a draft day.
God, no.
If he's still there by the time we
not on my list.
Not on his
right
list. All right. So Todd, and you just said you're not a big fan, but do you expect? Because I mean, Seattle did lose some pieces. Paul Richardson's gone. Jimmy Graham's gone. Someone's going to get some catches and some touchdowns, right? So is that going to help Russell Wilson at all?
I think because obviously last season he threw for over 3,000 yards. My notes right here. 3,000 yards.
Do you have notes today?
Yeah,
That's
I do.
Impressive.
3,000 yards. 25 touchdowns and rushed for 300 yards. I think that's going to decrease a little bit because Rashard Penny that they drafted really high. I think they want to get back to that running that ball. I mean, I'm not saying Rashard Penny is Marshawn Lynch by any means, but I think they want to get back to doing that. So I think that's going to help Russell Wilson at least take the. He's not going to throw for as many yards, but he might throw more touchdowns. Rashard Penny's a versatile running back, so I think that's gonna help. So really, I think it really doesn't matter what Brandon Marshall does. I mean, maybe in the red zone they throw it up to him because that's obviously what he's really known for. Like when he's in the red zone, just throw it up and catch it because he's 6'5". But I think they're going to lean more on the running game, and that's going to help and hurt Russell Wilson, whether it's in the fantasy world or in the real NFL.
So can I be bold? and this is probably just my love for Brandon Marshall.
Yeah.
But 16 touchdowns between Richardson and Jimmy Graham are gone. I'd say he at least catches 6 to 7 touchdowns.
I say Tyler Lockett probably.
He's
will.
got to throw it to somebody. And this Rashad Penny's a rookie.
He's dangerous Russ. He throws it to himself.
Yeah, and we've seen that.
He would be the ultimate fantasy player if
Yeah.
that could be the case. And I think he could do it because he's that amazing.
I think there's other options on that team that they'll find to.
Who? Tell me who. Can you name the other weapons on their team?
Tyler
Oh,
Lockett.
yeah.
Ed Dixon. Mark it
Yeah,
there, right
there you go. Ed Dixon. Yep.
Yeah.
My point.
No,
proven.
but I just think they're going to go really into that.
Dixon.
I think they're just going to go more in that running game, so it's really not. Gonna
Yeah,
matter.
there is a Schottenheimer as the new offensive coordinator. Keep that in mind.
Keep him, yeah, for sure.
So
For sure.
that's why I view it as.
All right. So that's enough of the Brandon Marshall talk. We could talk about Brandon Marshall all show, right?
No.
Just me. Okay. So, all right. So now for some bad news in the fantasy world. Chargers tight end Hunter Henry saw his 2018 season end before it even began after he tore his ACL on the very first day of OTAs. This would have been Henry's second season in the NFL, I believe. Second or third? It's third, I think. I think it's his third season.
Yeah.
Anyway, last season he put up 45 catches, 579 yards, 4 touchdowns. So now the Chargers, of course, suffer this huge blow to their offense. Todd, does it make you think twice about Phillip Rivers and this Chargers offense? Do you think that obviously this is negative for them?
Yeah.
But is it going to be that much negative where you're not thinking much about those parts in San Diego, Phillip Rivers, Keenan Allen, and the rest of those guys?
I think if anything that just makes Melvin Gordon just even a bit, his stock just going up a little bit more because he can catch the ball, so that might put him as maybe as that third option. Tyrone Williams is the second leading receiver on that team. Now, obviously, it always depends on with Keenan Allen. You got to fingers crossed, toes crossed, everything crossed because let's face it, when the last few years he's had some major injuries, and that's screwed a lot of people, including yours truly, who's right here. So I would still put Phillip Rivers high just because they do throw the ball a lot, but I think that just puts Melvin Gordon's stock even higher with Henry being gone, because since he can catch the ball out of the backfield and be a wide receiver, that's pretty much your tight end right there. Because I did read a report that they were trying to reach out to Antonio Gates, Antonio Gates,
yeah, makes sense.
to bring him back, obviously a Hall of Famer, not a bad thing. But if they can't get Gates to come back, I think Gordon becomes your running back and tight end.
So, Mikey, tight end is the catcher position of fantasy football. Like in fantasy baseball, catcher, there's only maybe one or two, and even they're having really bad seasons this year too. But for tight ends, now with Hunter Henry gone, I think some people were saying, and I don't know if you believe this, but I feel like Hunter Henry was kind of moving up in those rankings a little bit, finding favor with Phillip Rivers. Gates gone, he's going to take some of his catches as well. But with Henry gone, does that make the other ones, the few tight ends that are good in the NFL, that much more of a priority, that you need to reach those guys? Because with another guy, a good option off the board, you really have to kind of reach to get those top guys now, right?
It's not a priority.
No.
Tight ends are never a priority.
No, really.
I mean, at least, with the way that I draft, if you can get one of those three, the Gronks, the Kelseys, or
At
Zach
the right
Ertz,
place, right?
Right, if the value's right. So
Yeah.
I'm talking about end of third round, early fourth, somewhere around there. If you're comfortable, then sure. But, if not, it's not needed. I'm the type of guy, I'm always going to focus more on the running backs and receivers first,
Okay.
as opposed to getting a tight end.
All right, so before we move on from this, if Gates comes back, you guys interested, yes or no?
The guy's how old is he?
Like 37 maybe.
But, I mean, he had a relatively – I don't know how many – I don't have that in front of me. I know he has 30 catches for 316 yards and 3 touchdowns. I can't tell you how many games he played. But he just seems like he's always around, always somewhat fantasy relevant. If he missed a majority of games because of injury, he could be fresh.
You watch? No, he can't be fresh. Okay.
I think
Have you watched an Antonio Gates game the last 2 years? I mean, the
Every
guy,
once in a while.
he can't even run routes anymore. He
the Albert
jogs.
Pujols?
Yeah,
Is
he's
of
he's
baseball
turning
references.
into one of those tight ends to where if you're going to be in the red zone, maybe he can still go and jump for a ball.
Sure.
But if you're expecting 6 or 7 catches and a touchdown or two a game, that's not going to happen.
Oh, no, I'm not getting that from the number one
Except-
tight end.
If your name is Joe Vaccarelli and you're using him in the championship game, that's different.
Then yes. But with the state of tight ends, if I can get a guy that give me 3 or 4 catches, 2 or 3 catches, and a touchdown every other week, I mean, isn't that the state of tight ends? That's the average of tight ends today.
Yeah, tight ends are shit.
They're garbage.
So you play matchups week to week. That's
There
what
you
you
go.
do.
I love
But
it.
I think too is just depending obviously if Gates does come back, where you draft him. Obviously, you're drafting him toward the end anyway at this point, and it's more.
Yeah.
And it's more of a value pick anyway. So if you get him and you somehow get some production out of him, if they even use him as a decoy, and he somehow gets a couple touchdowns in the red zone, why not? So.
Todd's all over Antonio Gates. Just remember that.
He is.
So let's keep going with the news here. How about Tevin Coleman says, and there's obviously not a lot going on here in June, but Tevin Coleman says the team will use him more in 2018. I'll take that for what it's worth, obviously here in June, but let's kind of discuss the perception of what Tevin Coleman is actually, because he's got Devontae Freeman in front of him, just kind of what they've done amongst each other last year. Freeman outcarried Coleman 196 to 156, and Freeman had more catches, not by a lot, 36 to 27. Freeman did miss 2 games last year, and Coleman started both of those games. He actually started 3 games total last season. But in terms of what you guys think about Tevin Coleman, does he move him up? Do you guys move him up in your rankings? So for, I guess, Mikey, for him to say this, the whole point of this news is that they're going to use me more. Does that make Tevin Coleman more exciting for you, or Devonta Freeman less excited? Like, what do you think when I tell you that?
It didn't really move the meter for me.
No, doesn't matter.
No.
You expect the same thing as we saw last year?
Well, I mean, you look at the last couple of years, they've been using Tevin Coleman more and Devonta Freeman a little bit less every year.
It's very frustrating.
And from what I see, the more you use Tevin Coleman, the less effective that he is. His yards per carry on both receptions and as far as a running back are down in both categories.
Wow. So less carries, less catches. He's more productive.
He's a smaller speed back. So to me, he's better fit in that third down role behind Devontae Freeman. To come out and give you that punch, catch a quick screen or something, and be able to run up the field. It didn't move the meter for me.
What about, did it move the meter for you, Todd?
I mean,
we should make a whole segment. Move the meter.
Move the meter. Devontae Freeman, I'd still draft him over Coleman. I think he's still the more versatile dual threat back. I think he can get more catches. I think he has more explosive ability down the field when you need it. So I'd still go Devontae Freeman over Coleman.
Sure. And I don't think anybody's going to argue with that either. But it's more about, are you moving Coleman up?
Are
you excited to see that, or you say leave it the way it is?
I'd rather draft another number 1 running back, over Coleman. Even though Coleman and Freeman do split times, but I just think Coleman still in his position, like Mikey said, I think is you use less of Coleman, you'll get more out of him, but that doesn't mean I'm moving him up over, maybe not even over a rookie running back that might be a potential number 1.
So not a lot of love for Tevin Coleman on that segment. We'll talk about running back rankings on our next show. So if you're interested in how you're going to rank Freeman and Coleman, we'll tell you on our next podcast in a couple weeks or in July at some point. So now let's move on over to Carson Wentz. He had his first kind of interview about his injury since it happened. Since Wentz says the goal is to be ready for week 1, which of course means he's keeping his fingers crossed. Doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be ready for week 1, but of course he says that's the goal. Of course, the Eagles' QB suffered a torn ACL and PCL at the end of the regular season. So with this news in June, how do you rank Wentz, and do you expect him to kind of be ready for week 1, or are you ranking him based on the fact that he's not going to be there in week 1?
It depends on what happens in preseason. I know in preseason they're probably going to be cautious, but
let's talk about today. Like, you guys ranked him today. And I will just go ahead and just tell you where we're pretty similar. I have him 10th. Todd, you have him 9th. Mikey has him 11th. So we have him as a starting quarterback. So my assumption, that means you guys ranked him as if he's starting. But does it make you nervous? Are you guys thinking about maybe dropping him later? I don't know. Do you guys feel confident that he's going to be back in time?
I just need to see just one.
See it to believe it.
Yeah, just one preseason game, just one where the starters play for just the first half. And if I see enough, then I'll keep Carson Wentz where I have him at number 9. But if he kind of shows a little bit of rust, a little bit, and might drop him a little bit, but maybe 2 or 3 spots. But other than that, I'll keep him at 9.
I actually think he's not ready for the season week 1.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that.
I think they're going to be very cautious in their approach with what they do. They're going to keep the kid gloves on. I mean, that's a major knee injury. And, a lot of what he did was being able to make, his mobility is important to his game.
Yeah.
And you've got Nick Foles there. So
Super Bowl MVP Nick Foles.
Yeah.
So why rush him? And they kept him.
Right.
So I think that was a big part of
if
it.
If he misses the first 2 or 3 weeks, so what? I still kept him at 11th because I think that when he does come back, he's got a higher value than a lot of other guys because when he does, he's one of those guys that can get you 45, 50, 55 on any given week, especially in that explosive offense. So it doesn't, if he misses a couple weeks, I don't think it hurts his value that much.
So even, let's say for sure he's not playing the first 3 weeks of the season. You're going to leave him where you have him ranked. You'll draft him as if he's your starting quarterback. Are you then drafting someone really quickly afterwards to kind of have someone in those first 3 weeks, or is it more matchup based? So if you're playing, we're not sure how the Browns are going to be, so when people yell at me, the Browns are going to be better, just more of, I'm just saying as a bad defense, are you trying to find matchups at that point?
Well, you could even draft Nick Foles if you wanted to.
There you go.
To keep
But
you
I
in
mean,
the clear.
Are you doing that in the next couple rounds? Do you think someone else is going to nab him to be an a-hole? We have a couple owners in our league.
Could, but
that could be.
I mean, quarterback's always one of those positions that I think is kind of deep. I mean, there's
It's
even
really
guys that are like at, in my rankings at 20, 21. I could pick up for a couple weeks, and I would be okay with it.
Okay. We'll talk more about some Carson Wentz because I think he's interesting. We'll see how this show kind of goes in terms of our quarterback top. But we have one more news and notes. I think I have one more here. And actually, we have 2, but we're not going to talk too much about him. Andrew Luck is throwing for the first time since last October. Let's celebrate. Let's bring on the music. It's about time. I only saw one clip, and it showed him throwing it once. So I don't know if that was
and it was a college ball.
And it was a college ball, so there you go. So take that for what it's worth. We just wanted to mention that because, golly, that guy, Andrew Luck, we'll talk about him, obviously, on our quarterback show here today. And the last news, you guys excited to talk about Terrence West? Yeah, I know you guys are. Obviously, with Mark Ingram and his 4-game suspension, the Saints have added a running back for insurance. They signed last year. He was with the Baltimore Ravens. Terrence West, who's now going to back up Alvin Kamara. West spent the last 3 seasons with the Ravens. Last year, played in 5 games, rushing for 138 yards, 2 touchdowns, and caught 7 passes. You guys excited for Terrence West?
Yeah.
No one's excited. No,
yeah.
I just wanted to, I don't know. I just thought that was fun.
Okay.
For those who are going to draft Alvin Kamara, there's someone there to take some running back carries.
I thought you were building it up like it's like
I thought that was a good build-up.
Okay.
Terrence West is in the house.
I know. Well, Terrence West from a small.
No other fantasy podcast is talking about Terrence West, but we are because we go deep, Todd.
I know, and from a small school nonetheless.
What school is he from?
Townsend.
There you go.
In Baltimore.
Towson.
There you go.
I was like, Townsend. I don't know who that is. All right, let's get into. You guys ready to talk about some quarterbacks?
Yes, sir.
And it's always exciting to talk about quarterbacks because we do point per completion. So that's different, and I think that's what makes our league stand out. That's why we have a lot of owners come in and out. Let's also say we have a brand new owner in the league. As Miles Potter coming in for bye week is what we called him, Peter Aragon, who just said he didn't have enough time. So we were at poker. He says, I can't do it anymore. And I'm like, Miles is like, what league? I'll be in your league. Solved itself in less than like 20 seconds.
Yeah, I know, right?
Fantastic.
Like I said.
We welcome Miles. He was supposed to come by and drop something off
I'm
today.
going to miss my bye week.
Yeah, I know. I mean, for someone, that was about one of the worst fantasy seasons I've ever seen. All right, so let's talk about some quarterbacks. We got rankings. We ranked it about 1 to 30-ish. I didn't think we would go past like 24 or 25, but when you're in the, you're rolling, you're going along. So first off, we're going to talk about our number 1 guy, which I thought would be unanimous, but it wasn't. Right, Mikey? It wasn't.
Well,
because we know
with Todd, you never know.
You never know. Exactly. It's always Todd has got something else to talk about. So, but at least it'll make this show exciting.
All right.
So, our number 1 guys. I picked Aaron Rodgers. Mikey?
I also picked Aaron Rodgers.
And Todd Diamond, reveal who your number 1 quarterback is.
Do you like that, Kirk Cousins?
Gosh.
Kirk
This is
Cousins.
wrong on so many levels. But we're going to let you have your moment in the sun and tell us why you picked Kirk Cousins over Aaron Rodgers.
So the reason, besides making this podcast interesting by doing it,
oh, Todd's learning. I like that. He's just doing it to be different.
I'm just
hot
doing it.
take. Let's listen to Todd.
All
you know
right.
what? I respect that a little bit. Go ahead.
I appreciate that. All right. So the reason I picked Kirk Cousins was the fact he's going to Minnesota where they play in a dome, and obviously quarterbacks that play in domes do put up a lot of yards and a lot of touchdowns. And I think now, first of all, getting as much money as he did, obviously I'm glad the Broncos didn't do that, didn't pay him all that money. But I think he's got a lot more to prove too as well. He's going to a situation where he's got some better wide receivers to throw to, and Stephon Diggs, who's I think definitely a top 20 wide receiver, and also you have Dalvin Cook coming back, who obviously before he got hurt, was obviously Eric, you can speak to this. Obviously, he was doing great for you until he got hurt.
I was going to win the championship until he got hurt. That's just me.
Okay, he was
go ahead.
going to win a championship.
Sorry.
I can
get a little emotional.
I can respect that. So I think, first of all, just the weapons around him compared to what it was in Washington, I think is going to be a lot better. And he's got a better defense behind him to help him, so he really doesn't have to do a whole lot. But I think he'll put up 4,000 yards. And he'll throw. I say he throws at least 35 touchdowns, and so forth. So that's why I think it's mostly the dome factor. It's mostly the fact that he's throwing inside, and I think when knowing the elements aren't going to be there, that's going to help him. That helps the quarterback. That helps the quarterback going forward. And I think just this fast-paced offense that he's going to, I mean, we saw what obviously it did for Case Keenum. It got Case Keenum, a starting gig here in Denver. So I just think Kirk Cousins is going to shock the world. He's going to shock the world, and that's why I put Kirk Cousins number one over Aaron Rodgers. I know Aaron Rodgers is probably about to get paid, and be the highest paid player in the league, but I think Kirk Cousins, when it comes to the fantasy world, I think he's gonna put up some video game numbers.
Do you want to say it, or do you want me to say it?
Oh God!
You can. Well, first before you say it.
Oh God!
No, I'm looking for a specific phrase. I'm looking for a specific phrase that you like to say.
Well, I'm gonna let you say it. I just before you do.
Okay.
I wanted to say that Todd made some very good, valid points. I don't agree with any of them, but they're valid. Like, you could see it, like it would make sense. But go ahead, say your word.
Have you lost your damn mind?
No.
Kirk Cousins? Number one?
Yes, Kirk Cousins.
Oh, man. Case Keenum finished 13th with Minnesota last year. Now, I know he didn't start the season, but come on. There's just so much. You even said it in your rant about how they have a good defense, a good running game, and he doesn't have to do as much. That's exactly why it's not going to be number one. The people that go number one are the people that have to throw, and they have a terrible defense. They have maybe no running game, and they're just chucking it up and down.
But that means he'll just do it just because he's Kirk Cousins, and I think
what does that mean? It's not like Kirk Cousins ever finished first. He was with Washington where he had to throw a lot. His defense wasn't great, no running game, and he still didn't finish first. In fact, he finished 8th overall in our score.
But I think that's going to give him more motivation maybe to say, like, oh, well, I have such a great offense around me, and I'm just going to start letting it go.
I think you're missing the point, though. In that offense, they're going to run first and not do a lot because their defense is going to put them in situations where he doesn't have to score 50 points. Like with Washington, they had to score 40 points because their defense couldn't stop anybody. With Minnesota, they can hold their opposition to 15, 16, 20 points, and he only has to score 24, 27, so the passes are going to be less, a lot more running, and that's why I don't think the numbers really add up.
Efficiency is not the same as fantasy value.
But Dalvin Cook does catch the football, so
sure.
that does give Kirk Cousins another weapon. But I think he's gonna. I think knowing he's not gonna be in the elements as much. Obviously, I mean, I know the NFC North when he has to go to Green Bay or Chicago. But for the most part, being in a dome, I think that just changes a quarterback's mindset a little bit. Knowing, okay.
But you figure half of his games are at home in the dome. So that's half a season. It's not like he plays every game in the dome. And in the Minnesota Dome, they even have a roof that retracts. Am I wrong on that? I could be wrong on that.
Yeah, it does.
So even if it's nice outside, they're going to open it anyway.
But he's also going to have to go to Green Bay and to Chicago.
Yeah. So that's going to be tough. So we can't change your mind.
I think Kirk Cousins is my number one quarterback, and I always talk as we go through the podcast of where I'll draft him. But
the last thing I'll say, because we have to talk about a lot of quarterbacks today. The last thing I'll say, and you can say something last if you want, but Kirk Cousins also has a new offensive coordinator over in Minnesota. I guess he was going to get a new one anyway, but I guess Minnesota in general has a new offensive coordinator. It was the Eagles' former quarterback coach, so they got everybody, not just Cousins. Everybody has to adapt to this new offensive system, which will slow things down also at the beginning of the year, because it usually takes a little bit of time over the Falcons all season long. But
I think Kirk Cousins being in the league as long as he has, and kind of being that that veteran quarterback compared to Carson Wentz. I think he's wanting to, he'll still have that mentality. We'll have a couple. Do you like those? You like that kind of thing. But I think this is gonna be good for him. And I think
let me ask you this: is Kirk Cousins sponsoring you on this podcast? Is he paying you money right now? Is he sending you checks?
He could.
That'll make some sense. Tell him I'm on board, too, if he could send me some money.
I'm told by my lawyers I can't say anything right now.
All right. So that's the Kirk Cousins talk. I have him 13th. Mikey has him 14th. So even Mikey and I don't even have him as a starting, at least if you talk about 12 teams, as a starting quarterback. So do we want to talk about Aaron Rodgers? I mean, are we nervous about him, number one? He had that injury last year, shoulder injury, no less. But you feel confident that he's going to be the number one guy?
He has to. I mean,
is it in his contract, which he hasn't signed yet? But
no, I just think out of all the quarterbacks, I mean, I've always thought Green Bay has a questionable running game. Green Bay always kind of scores points by throwing the ball. He's the safest, I think, option as the number one overall.
And I think that goes a long way with what I think at least should be in your top 5 is safe. Now, you want upside, but you also don't want to blow it with a crappy quarterback. And as our top scoring players in our league, I think that goes a long way. And Aaron Rodgers was on an MVP pace before he got hurt. I think I have 13 touchdowns, 3 interceptions in 5 games, so he was already killing it. You kind of mentioned the run game is average at best because we don't know who the running back is really. So I think you're right. I don't think there's a lot of discussion on why we think if he should be the number one guy, except for Todd. But maybe we'll convince him. Maybe we convince him. Maybe he comes back with his next with the rankings.
There's no way. I mean, Minnesota doesn't even need to score 30 a game. That's it's not.
But Kirk Cousins is going to want to score 30.
That's not up to him.
I know.
Well, his job is to win the Super Bowl. That's the reason they brought him in. They had a team that almost went to the Super Bowl. But unfortunately, I just lost my thought. So, I mean, they were just that one player away, and what they say that one player away was quarterback. So, and they don't have to do that much. Just get it to Diggs every once in a while. Thielen, they have a ton of weapons. I agree. There's weapons everywhere. But they just have to do enough not to fuck it up. So, and if that's the case, they don't need to throw it 50 times a game. Okay, still going here. We're still talking kind of about our top 5 guys. Who are our number 2 guys? Me and Mikey picked Aaron Rodgers as number 1. Kirk Cousins is Todd number 1. Who's your number 2 guy, Todd?
Aaron Rodgers.
Okay, so there you go. So it just takes one guy to flip him into to change your mind. Okay, Mikey, who do you have number 2?
I took the GOAT, Tom Brady.
Okay, and I have Drew Brees, but I have Brady third. So right behind him. We all know these guys are great players. I think what most people want to hear is more about the guys that are after our top 5 guys. We know the Breezes, the Bradys, the Russell Wilsons are really good guys. Is there something you want to say about Drew Brees? Is there something you want to say about Tom Brady? Anything about someone in your top 5 that you really like? So I don't think we need too much discussion because we know they're great.
Yeah, Brees worried me a little bit. He's getting older. There was a little bit of a
drop-off. Wait a minute, Tom Brady boy.
I know, but let me finish my thought on this.
I'm sorry.
There was a little bit of a drop-off, and I think that was more on Sean Payton and the Saints. Like, they saw, running the ball actually was working for them.
Yeah.
And so they kind of went away from Brees a little bit more. So after having a bunch of average to below average seasons, my thought is, why would they go away from what worked for them last year?
Sure.
So I've got a little bit of concern there. Patriots are always going to throw the ball.
Even though Edelman's going to be suspended for 4 games.
It doesn't matter. It's just they,
Because that
there'll be a new Edelman, new short white guy running across the middle. They'll find him.
I will say that Drew Brees, despite not being used, still led our league in completions.
True.
And I think the touchdowns will go up, especially in those first 4 weeks when Mark Ingram is gone. So I still think if you're talking about being safe, he's got the better options, better offensive weapons than Tom Brady would, I would say for sure. Both have really good durability, so there's nothing in terms of their Saints have one of the best offensive lines in the league.
And
but I mean, it's
yeah.
we're what do they call it? Nitpicking, picking nits, I think is what I heard someone say a couple days ago. So, I mean, it's small things. It's like, why am I taking Breeze over Brady? Why am I taking Brady over Breeze? One of the guys that stood out in Mikey's top 5, which I'm excited to talk about, is Deshaun Watson. He has him 4th overall. That's not super different than me, Todd. Both Todd and I have him 8th. But you have him in your top 5, number 4 overall. Talk about safe, not so much. But to explain why Deshaun Watson is a guy that you really, really like.
Yeah, and this is a huge kind of boomer bust play.
I like it.
But,
It's hot.
I mean,
It's hot.
It is.
It's June,
but,
95 degrees, hot outside in Denver.
but it's what you see.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy, he was just incredible in the small sample size that he had last year. You saw he wasn't afraid to use the weapons that he had, especially going down the field, with Nuke Hopkins, Braxton Miller, guys like that. The Texans are going to need to throw. I mean, I think we've seen by this point there was excitement around Lamar Miller when he came. Not so much no more. You kind of know what he is.
It fizzled out pretty quick.
It did. And their defense is just kind of J.J. Watt's been kind of injury prone. You hope he stays healthy. I just think Houston is one of those teams that needs to score. It's like the opposite of the Kirk Cousins thing. They need to score. They're going to use his legs. They're going to use his arm. And he just has that it factor that when you watch it, you see it, and you like it. So I'm all aboard. All aboard the Deshaun Watson train.
Before you're willing to go – now, I think you're right. He's got what people like to see on a TV screen. Like in the games that he played – in full games, he scored 51, 39, 54, 60, and 40, and he had 29 in the game he was hurt. And they were against some pretty tough – I mean, against Jacksonville, he only had 19. I think that was the game he got hurt. Or that might have been his first game or something like that. I can't remember.
He came in at halftime because Savage was,
stinking
terrible.
So I get it. I get that part of it. But way different than the safe we were talking about before. But his upside is so good, you're willing to pass on some of the other safe guys. I mean, he is injury prone. He's had 2 major surgeries on his knee, one last year, obviously, and one back in college, too. So that also, a little scary.
Is he almost like what RG3 was, continue what Washington was, was hoping he was going to be?
You got to listen to that, right? I mean, RG3 was something else when we saw him in that first year, and that was it.
He's RG3 with a brain, a better arm, better decision making.
I will say, just doing my homework on Deshaun Watson, 4 new starters on that offensive line next year.
Scary.
Could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. It's just unproven and we don't know.
I just think Deshaun Watson's that lottery ticket. That's what I think.
Sure. You're spending a lot at number 4 overall in your rankings.
Well, he's number 4 overall for the guy that drafts his quarterback last.
Sure. So which means you won't get him because someone else is going to say the same thing. Like, oh, man, he was so delicious when he played in those 7 games or 6 games. So good, so good. So we'll see. He's got the same offense coming back. So that's positive. I get it. He looks so amazing.
You have to decide whether or not you want the, say, 40 from a guy, or do you want to take a chance at a guy that can have those 60-type games and win you a week?
Or get hurt, and then you're rolling around with Case Keenum, Marcus Mariota, or Eli Manning.
Or Josh McCown.
Fantasy's a dangerous game.
It is. But there's a lot to being durable, too.
Yeah.
There is a lot for someone that plays every single game. Okay. So in terms of out of your guys, and we'll see how it goes, but out of the guys you picked in your top 5, who's most likely, or who is the guy that has who can bomb out, who can bust? Who are you most worried about in your top 5?
Well, obviously, Deshaun
I think we just talked about yours. Okay, Todd, in your top 5, who are you most concerned about? And actually, let me go through this real quick. Okay. For Mikey's top 5, you had Rodgers first, Brady second, Breeze third, Deshaun Watson fourth, Russell Wilson fifth. Mikey has Kirk Cousins number 1, Rodgers second, Brady third, Breeze fourth, Cam Newton fifth, and for me, Aaron Rodgers first, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Russell Wilson, and Matt Stafford. So, Todd, out of your 5 guys, Cousins, Rodgers, Brady, Breeze, and Newton, who are you most concerned about?
I would say Newton.
Mikey's got number 1.
Way to go, Mike. I know. Yeah, no.
That's why we need a video podcast. 'Cause that was brilliant. So you're saying Cam Newton out of those guys would be has
and that's just really based on if Norv Turner can just get in his head and just tell him you just throw the ball more. Don't you don't have to run. You don't have to run as much because let's face it, as big as Cam Newton is, and I mean Cam Newton's built like a linebacker and plays quarterback. So if Norv Turner can just get him to throw the ball more, then I think he'll do all right. But if he goes back to his own ways of trying to win everything by himself, yeah, it's just gonna be another year of just shaking your head with Cam Newton, going, "What happened?"
That's wrong. Do you understand that what made Cam Newton who he was, and when he had his best season, when he was took him to the Super Bowl and was winning fantasy championships for Quayne, it was his running that made him. When he was, getting all those touchdowns inside the 5-yard line, that's what makes Cam Newton who he is.
Did Cam Newton win a Super Bowl? No.
But that's not. But he won a fantasy championship for somebody.
I understand that, but that was 2011. No.
It's
not 2012. Excuse me.
But
when
it's
he won
not
his
his
championship.
throwing. You see him when he throws, man. He's trying to take people's heads off. He's not a very accurate quarterback.
But when he's running more, then he's opening himself up more for more injury, and then you're fishing for Josh McCown in in the waiver wire. So I think with Cam Newton just needs to throw the ball more, and I think you'll get more out of it and more fantasy points. I'm not saying he should completely just abandon the run. But he needs to. He's got some decent weapons around to throw to. So throw it to him and let him make plays.
Did you say decent?
Torrey Smith?
No, I'm talking about McCaffrey.
Yeah, that's it. You said decent weapons plural. I think he has McCaffrey, and that's really it. I'm not a big fan of what he's got on the rest of his squad. DJ Moore, we don't know anything about him. I guess Greg Olsen when he's not injury prone, but he's kind of turning into an injury prone guy. Torrey Smith. Ugh. I think you know my thoughts on Torrey Smith.
He has one good week a year. You just have to figure out which one it is.
He likes to throw it deep, and that's what Cam Newton likes to do, and that's what Torrey Smith. So I get it, but they should have kept Ted Ginn. That was a stupid move to let him go, and I'm sure it couldn't have been that much more money. But anyway, so that's Cam Newton. For me, I think Matt Stafford. He's not sexy. This is the total opposite of Deshaun Watson. He's not sexy. He's going to get you 35 to 40 points a week. His weapons are suspect. Golden Tate, 90 catches in four seasons in a row or something. Galladay, there's not a lot.
Hype train's already back on him.
Yeah, people are starting to like him for sure. The running game, I think that's the biggest reason to like Stafford is because they don't have much of a running game despite the guy, that they drafted early. But I don't know. Jim Bob Cooter returns and he did well with him. I don't know. Yeah. He could go down to 10. He's not sexy. He doesn't have a lot of upside. He doesn't have lottery ticket appeal. He's not going to go up there and throw over 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns. He's going to be the same thing he always is. About a little over 4,000 yards passing. He'll be close to 25 to 29 touchdowns. And so, but he had out of the guys. I was relatively conservative on my guys, so I think he can kind of fall to number 10. But I don't think he's going to fall outside of top 10.
No.
So again, it's kind of that safe. He's not going to be great, but I think he's going to be enough for me to win.
He's not the win you a week guy, but he's not the lose you a week guy either.
Yeah.
True. So we always remember too when Matthew Stafford was like in the top 5 when he had Calvin Johnson attached to him. So, now it's
he finished third in points last year.
But again, obviously
without Calvin Johnson.
But yeah, without
because he has to throw a lot.
Yeah, because they have to throw a lot because their defense is just god awful. But and obviously they get the running game going too. But yeah, Matthew Stafford's one of those he can throw the ball. He can throw the ball 50 times, but can he win you a Can he win you a fantasy championship?
Let me tell you why he's going to be better this year. No Eric Ebron. He doesn't have to worry about Eric Ebron at all this year.
Oh, Eric Ebron.
He's going to be better.
Dropping passes when clearly when you catch passes in the end zone and wait a minute, this is a football. Let me put this on the ground.
Terrible. All right, so we're done talking about our top 5 guys. Let's talk about the rest of these guys. And let's talk about quarterbacks that we like and we think that could exceed some expectations. Mikey, do you have a guy that you think could kind of move him? People don't have him ranked as high, or you think it's going to be better than what the perception is? Who are some quarterback, or give me one quarterback that you really like right now?
Derek Carr's my guy.
Yeah, I've noticed that. I saw that. Mikey has Derek Carr, and I'm trying to find him because I'm so low on my list. Mikey has him 9th. I have him 19th. Todd has him 17th. So why do you like Derek Carr so much?
I've said it so much in these previous podcasts, like people don't understand.
This goes back to the Gruden thing.
This goes back to the Gruden thing. They don't run to run. They throw to run. So Derek Carr is going to be a guy that he's going to be just checking off completions off to these running backs. That is going to be their running game. And so I can't stress it enough. He's going to be a guy that's going to get you probably, low to mid-20s in completions every single game. It's just going to boost his number. He's going to become a more consistent quarterback.
So you're saying they're going to get out of his hand quicker? He doesn't have to hold on to it?
They're going to get it out of his hand quicker, but they're just going to be throwing the ball a lot in the Gruden offense.
Does he have anybody to throw to?
Yeah.
Well,
there's no Tim Brown or Jerry Rice hanging around this roster.
That's true, but I actually, I think Cooper will get a little bit better. They brought in Jordy Nelson, who I know is injury prone, but I'm interested to see what he kind of does in there. I assume they brought in Doug Martin to kind of be that receiving back to kind of help him out there. They still have Jalen Richard over there that can catch the ball as well. So, I mean, they've got guys.
You can't forget
Gruden
beast
has
mode.
done more with less.
Yeah, that's true.
Joe Jurevicius, anyone?
Yeah, the big knock on Derek Carr is he's not a big completion guy.
Yeah.
He's not, and I think, and obviously that's what makes our quarterbacks in our league. In his 4 years, he's averaged 22 completions per game. Now, obviously, with a new coach, that could change. His now new offensive coordinator is Greg Olson, who is Jared Goff's position coach in L.A., and obviously he made Jared Goff a better quarterback last season. So there's definitely some upside for that. But I don't know. He doesn't just – you talk about Deshaun Watson having the look factor. Derek Carr does not look like he has a look factor. Now – that could be what John Gruden and his staff are saying. Like, he just doesn't have it. He needs to dink and dunk it. It's like Rich Gannon, right? Just dip and dunk. Every once in a while, maybe we'll take a chance, but it's let me go to my tight end. They have a good tight end in Jared Cook. Let me go to Doug Martin. You can catch the ball. Obviously, Washington can catch the ball. I think he actually led the running backs with catches. He had 34 receptions. So I don't know. I guess I'd have to see it first. And the thing that scares me about John Gruden is him not updating to today's NFL. I mean, that was a long time ago, like over a decade. So, and a lot of things have changed in the NFL. I mean, and I don't know if the mantra is the same. I mean, Norv Turner is still coaching, but you kind of have to change with the times. Can he change with the times? And we'll just have to wait and see. I don't know if he can. But I don't know if I'm going to be willing to take a risk, at least at this point. Maybe we see something in preseason. Obviously, our rankings can change way before. But if today I was drafting, I just don't want to have anything to do with Derek Carr.
I think you're going to regret that decision.
All right.
But I think John Gruden's going to have to. I think he's going to because if he's going to want because he's going to have if he
but
wants
why?
to win.
But why?
Why?
But why? Why would ownership say, well, we're going to bring John Gruden, so he has to change? They're bringing in John Gruden to coach as John Gruden would. If they want someone that's of this era, they could have went with their offensive coordinator who coached coached the quarterback coach for the Rams last year. Why don't they just get him? He obviously is up with the times, right?
But I think, too, maybe they're hoping maybe John Gruden can bring some of that new age and some of that old school mixture in there. Because obviously, too, you have to make sure your players are all on board, too, with that. Because, they probably look back and see, like, how the NFL was run, how the NFL was back then, a decade ago. And they're thinking, well, wait a minute, what is he trying to teach me? Like, this doesn't make sense. So I think he's going to have to try a little bit of that, because if he tries his first year at least,
I don't know. That's like someone coming up to me like, Eric, you've been masturbating with your right hand your whole life. You can still do that, but you got to masturbate with your left too. It's different. You're asking someone to come in and do that, and I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But I don't know. That's why I'm not really sold. There's so many factors against him. Just give me a guy that's been in the same offense, that has good weapons, and that throws the ball. He doesn't do it. He doesn't have any of that right now.
No.
At least in my opinion. So that's why he's so low. But that's me.
Or either that, or they'll just try to run the ball a lot more too.
No, that's not going to happen in a Gruden offense. It's just not.
So, Todd, give me someone that you like that's outside of your top five.
Mitchell Trubisky.
Oh, really? We're going to talk about Mitchell Trubisky?
Sure are.
For those who don't know, because we haven't announced it yet, but Mitchell Trubisky, Todd has 13th overall. Mikey has him 26th. I have him 28th. So a huge discrepancy. So Kirk Cousins, Mitchell Trubisky, biggest fans. Todd Diamond's the biggest fan. So tell me why Mitchell Trubisky should be ranked 13th overall.
I think
without making me laugh.
Okay, without me. I've
already started chuckling.
Yeah,
It's
you're already
over.
chuckling, so
Go ahead.
it's over. So the reason I have him so high is I think first of all the potential that he showed last year with pretty much no weapons at all. All his running backs pretty much were his wide receivers, and I think now this year they've actually got him some weapons, and I just think he showed me enough in that last year where. Obviously they weren't winning a lot of games, and they were in rebuilding mode and all this stuff. So I think this year he might have that Deshaun Watson type.
Oh,
like he might have a few of those games like wow, and I think this year I'll go another bold prediction. This meter's gonna explode. I think he throws at least for close to 3,000 yards, and throws for I'd say at least 25 touchdowns. Yep, that's
as your
right.
number 13 overall quarterback.
I think so. I think he might.
That's like
Yeah, everybody throws for 3,000.
yeah, everybody can get 3,000.
But I'm just saying for him going in his second year that might just
Sure, and that's fine. Like I don't totally disagree with that, but I mean to have him 13th. I mean, I can't believe you compared him to Deshaun Watson.
I'm just saying
because he has shown none of that, and I haven't seen every Bears game, but there is nothing that showed
because he had nobody.
Nothing. Because it doesn't matter. You have to be able to show that you can do something and take it. If you're going to be a quarterback that's going to lead a team and going to be fantasy relevant, not NFL relevant, but fantasy relevant, you got to make the people around you better.
But half of his wide receivers kept getting hurt every single week. He had
7 total touchdown passes in 12 games. I think Deshaun Watson had 6 in one game, if I'm not mistaken.
You're relying on Kevin White to stay healthy. Is that what you're telling?
No, it's going to be Allen Robinson. We'll talk.
Who hasn't been fantasy relevant in 2 years?
Yeah,
was also injured.
Yeah, but I think he's gonna show something.
Oof.
I think.
Oof.
He does have
Diamond.
John Fox out of the way.
First of all, Deshaun Watson had DeAndre Hopkins to throw the ball to. One of the best, probably top 5 wide receivers in the whole league. Who did Trubisky have to throw the ball to? Meredith? Come on.
No, because he was injured. That was your boy. And he was injured before the season even started. Yeah. But, all right, so Mitchell Trubisky, for those who want to be bold.
Oh, I'm going to
be
be bold.
Todd Diamond.
I'm going to be bold.
Wow. Anything you want to say about Mitchell Trubisky?
It's
crazy, right?
It's crazy. And he's playing half of his games in the Windy City. That's terrible for a quarterback.
It'll be fine.
You just talked about the Dome. And how that makes a huge difference. He is not in the Dome. And he got to play 8 games in Chicago. He's got to go to Green Bay. Oof. It's going to be rough. All right. A guy that I like, and I don't know if I'll talk about it. I don't know if we'll talk about Matt Ryan at any point. But I know he's kind of been up and down. Obviously, the perception is that he was disappointing. He did finish 9th last year, so he's still a top 10 guy, and I think he can do that again. I have Matt Ryan 9th, so that's not out of the realm. Todd has him 14th. Mikey has him 17th. But in terms of just everything's lined up for him, and other than the money. Because usually you play hard to get the money. He's got the money. He doesn't have to play hard anymore. But for Matt Ryan, incredible weapons. We know who his weapons are, especially with Ridley now in the mix, which is incredible. Hasn't missed a game in 8 seasons. Offensive line's pretty solid. The right side has some question, but the left side and the center are really good. 9th in the completions. He was 9th in 2016. So I don't think he's going to go and finish 1 or 2. But he has the ability with the same coaching staff. Last year he got a new offensive coordinator, so now they're fully engrossed in what Steve Sarkisian's doing over there. I think it could be as high as maybe 7th or 8th. And that's just a guy who I think a lot of people are picking outside their top 10. That could be inside the top 10. So that's a guy I kind of like and could be on my radar. Wow, Mikey's, did I fart? Did you smell something in here? That is a terrible look coming off your face.
He's just the meh guy. meh.
Sure.
That's what he is. It's like you're gonna get up there, you're gonna be ready. Okay, I'm gonna take Matt Ryan, and you're just like, I'm gonna take Matt Ryan.
Who else can I take before Matt
Right,
Ryan?
right. You're
Can I
like
wait
thinking
around?
because
Can I
he's
wait
just
around?
like he's never gonna get you like that excited about playing him because he's just kind of,
I think he's better than
Yeah.
But I think also the running backs, when they run, are pretty good. We haven't seen a lot of 400-yard games, 4-touchdown games the last couple of seasons, which makes him meh. I get it. But everything is lined up for him, so he can do that.
He could have a bounce
But
back.
again, it's more of me having him. A lot of people see him as an outside the top 10 guy. I think he can finish inside the top 10.
I just think you take Matt Ryan and you're like, again, it goes along with your.
It's like I'm
Eric
masturbating with
is-
two hands.
No, you're just safe. You're
Yeah.
safe.
But Matt Ryan, the offense he's surrounded by,
It's so good.
yeah, I mean,
Those weapons are so good.
yeah, and even right now,
Well, Julio doesn't score touchdowns, so okay.
He just got to get it near the goal line.
Yeah, so they can.
So Tevin Coleman can
Right.
run it in. All right. So those are some of the guys we like. Do you guys want to talk about any other guys that you like? Does anybody kind of stand out to you?
I go another guy,
Sure, go for it.
Case Keenum.
All right, let's talk about Case Keenum. Todd has him ranked 16th. Mikey actually has him 15th, and I have him 23rd. So let's talk. I mean, we're Bronco fans. Let's talk Case Keenum. Go for it.
I think now Case Keenum's coming into a situation now where he's got 2 Pro Bowl wide receivers to throw the ball to. Obviously, a great defense behind him, and now finally the Broncos finally have a quarterback. And as Broncos fans, we can breathe, saying, all right, we've got a quarterback that that won't lose us a game. That showed, that obviously almost got his team to the Super Bowl last year. So I think Case Keenum definitely in this offense will be that vocal leader, especially on offense, that we haven't had since Peyton Manning. So
Whoa. You're not comparing him to Peyton Manning, are you?
just that vocalness,
Just the vocal.
the vocal part, yeah, just that just that presence. Like,
But I'm a fantasy player. I give 2 shits about his vocal.
I know, but
If you're saying Peyton Manning in the same breath, I want to see 4,000 yards and 50 touchdowns. Am I going to get that from Case Keenum this year, Todd?
I get 30
You
or
might
40.
get half.
That's a lot different than 50, let me tell you.
Yeah, but I think just the offense he's in, I think will be, and if we get the running game going, that'll help him too. So
What do you think about Case Keenum, Mikey?
He's serviceable. 15. It doesn't make me excited about him. I think I'm excited as a Bronco fan, but as a fantasy guy, I put him as what he kind of did last year. Like, he's a guy, again, he's not going to let you down. He'll get you 35 to 40 a week. But, anything more than that, I just don't see it.
Yeah, he had 3,500 yards passing, 22 total touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Yeah, I don't think he's going to go out there and just light it up. I think he's going to be a guy that's going to make some plays every once in a while, running game, let the defense do some work. I don't think he's anything I'm going to be flying off the – he's got some good weapons. I don't know. I'm kind of mixed bag on DT and Emmanuel Sanders and whoever our tight end isn't there because we don't have any tight ends. And we'll see how the running game goes. There's not a lot in favor for him to succeed other than him and showing what he did with Minnesota, which has a way better offense than we do. So I don't know. I hope I don't have to draft him, but I'm not. I mean, obviously at what I have him as 17th or whatever it was. 23rd, yeah, I'm definitely hoping he's not on my list. So I don't know. That's Case Keenum. Todd, Mikey like him all right. They're outside the top 13
He's
or 14.
okay. He's like a good – I'd be okay if he's my second quarterback. But if I do end up with him as a starter, I had him last year. I made it work. So you just have to draft the rest of your team.
There you go.
yeah.
Well, very well.
All right, how about quarterbacks we don't like? Guys that get drafted high but are likely to disappoint, or guys you're trying to stay away from altogether. Mikey, who's a quarterback you don't like?
Alex Smith was one of the top quarterbacks last year, and I think it's going to take a dip. I think he loses a lot going over from Kansas City over to Washington, just in terms of weapons. No Tyreek Hill, no Travis Kelce, no Kareem Hunt. And he's not the same type of guy as Kirk Cousins where you ask him to throw 40 to 45 times and he's going to be that guy that's able to do that. He's more of the I'm safe quarterback. I can throw on the run, do some things like that. He's not the super statistic guy. I don't see it with Alex Smith.
They paid him as if he's a super statistic guy, though.
It's not.
I'm not
it's
saying
not
you're
who he
wrong.
is.
I'm just saying they paid him a ton of money to come over. I mean, they had to trade a good cornerback and whatever third or fourth round pick to get him. And it can't be to do nothing. To be serviceable. And I'm only saying that because they don't have anything.
Yeah.
Which is awful, but he's going to have to do something.
It's just.
I agree. Last year he had his best season ever as an NFL quarterback. In 12-year career, he has 0. Before last season, 0 4,000-yard seasons. He had 3,500 once in 2016. He has reached 20 touchdowns just 3 times, and they were in the low 20s. He had 20 in 2015, 23 in 2013, and he had 26 touchdowns last year. So he definitely benefited from having Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill and Kareem Hunt and so many options available over there.
He also benefited, and I looked at this up, playing a very soft defenses against the quarterback, at least in terms of fantasy. You look at, his big games. He played games against the Giants, who were one of the worst defenses against the quarterback, against the Jets. He had 2 games against the Raiders, who are just terrible against quarterbacks. So I think that also helped him. And now he's going, he'll get the Giants twice. But, I mean, the NFC, I think, is a lot tougher than the AFC is.
Yeah. You think the NFC is tougher? Is that what you just said?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. They've got an okay offensive line there in Washington. He's always been one of the lowest completion guys, but obviously doesn't work well. I just think he's going to have to throw because he's going to have to throw. Unless Geis comes in, because no one's relying on Samaje Perine. Thompson's probably not going to be ready Chris Thompson's not going to be ready for the beginning of the season. He plays every game. I'll give him that. He's pretty durable.
All right. Here we go. All in on Jordan Reed. Here we go.
Back to Jordan Reed talk. So that's Alex Smith. I have him 14th, so I definitely like him better than you guys. I just like him better than the Cam Newtons, the Prescotts, and the Andrew Lucks. So is he going to put up the same? I don't think he's going to put the same numbers. I think he'll still have a ton of completions. But, yeah, his wide receiving core is terrible.
There's
awful.
There's better wide receiver cores in college than the
gross. All right, Todd, give me someone that you don't like.
Marcus Mariota. I think there was so much hype on him and so much potential when he first came out. Like I said, that dual threat running back where he can run and throw, and he just hasn't been able to figure it out. It's almost like there's been games where he's trying to throw more and he feels uncomfortable doing that, and then he tries to run more and that doesn't help his case, and he just gets sacked more. They better just hope Derrick Henry can just keep running the ball, because I don't know. I think with Mariota, I think that train's starting to at its last stop, I think, to this point, and I just wouldn't draft him. As much as he's got that dual threat, capability, the offense that he's around, it's just, I just wouldn't do it. And if anything, I have him I have him 25th in my rankings over Alex Smith. I put it this way: I'd have Josh McCown over.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. Oh, yeah, I know. I don't know if that was I don't know if that meter. The meter was like, wait a minute. How do I react?
How you could say that? I mean, that's a punch, man.
It's a punch, but he hasn't. He's shown flashes, and he just hasn't been able to be consistent enough to move up. I mean, at least Jameis Winston. I think there's really still hope for him, because he's got one of the best wide receivers to throw the ball to. So, in Mike Evans. So I think with Mariota, yeah, I wouldn't even draft him as my backup. I don't feel comfortable. I wouldn't feel comfortable, starting him even on a bye week.
Give me your quick thoughts on Mariota.
I have him at 24, which is low, but I'm actually in more of a wait-and-see mode with him. Okay. I'm cautiously optimistic, we'll say.
Well, what's the optimism?
Well, they got rid of, the offense that they had in that whatever exotic smash mouth, and they're bringing in Matt LaFleur as the offensive coordinator over from the LA Rams, and you saw what he was able to do with Goff. So there's some optimism that maybe they're changing things up. Maybe they're looking to be a little bit more towards the passing game. You know, they brought in Dion Lewis. Maybe Corey Davis has a bigger second season. You know, cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, and Matt LaFleur was also the quarterback's coach when Matt Ryan was MVP.
There you go.
So there you go. Good offensive coordinator coming in. Yeah, he was definitely disappointing last year. In his sophomore year, we thought maybe he took that step forward, 3,500 yards, 26 touchdowns, just 13 touchdown passes last year, which is incredible. That's incredibly low. Now, I think that's going to go up. I don't think he's that bad of a quarterback. And they've got some decent guys. So I think things are going to change. I had him right before you guys, 22nd. But yeah, it's more of like if I notice he's starting to put together some decent weeks and I need a backup.
Yeah, he's a guy that
I think he can do it. He has the ability to do it.
Would it be more?
He could get into that mid-tier, the 15-16 range, very easily, depending on how they want to run that offense.
So it'd be more like matchup based, probably. Then because that I know I said I wouldn't even think about drafting even on a bye week, but if I had to, depending on the matchup, potentially.
So we're slowly changing Todd's mind. If we could just get him to get Aaron Rodgers number 1.
I know. Yeah.
He's not changing it. Okay. So a guy that I'm staying away from is Patrick Mahomes. I can't fathom why everybody is on board with this guy. Let's see. Todd doesn't even have him ranked. Todd forgot to put Patrick Mahomes. Maybe he likes him so much or hates him so much he's even after 30. But I had Patrick Mahomes 20th. After guys like Luck, Prescott, Winston, ahead of guys like Dalton, Mariota, because maybe there's something there, and I just don't know it. So I'm willing to take that risk, that lottery ticket, but he's a deep lottery ticket. There's just so many negative things. They run the ball first over there. And from what I understand, Andy Reid is taken back over the play calling duties, and he loves to run the ball.
No, he's
the opposite.
He
it's
loves
the opposite,
throwing.
Right? He loves throwing the ball. Okay, so that works in favor. Obviously, we don't know anything about his durability. We haven't seen any of that. He played one game against a Bronco. Yeah, he's got an arm that can throw it deep. So Tyreek Hill, fine. But is that enough to run an entire offense?
Don't forget Sammy Watkins.
Sammy Watkins.
I know.
Whatever. The most underachieving wide receiver. And in the one game he started, it was against a Broncos team that checked out.
Yep.
They didn't give two shits.
What are you talking about? Are you talking about like when Aqib Talib
exactly.
ran off the field instead of trying to tackle a guy?
Exactly. That's exactly in my notes. Kareem Hunt scoring that touchdown. Aqib Talib didn't even try. So I don't even take that game. And so to give the keys, to give him the car to this team's offense, we don't get to see practice. So I can't say that, oh, man, he's terrible. But to come into the NFL and be great right away and put up incredible fantasy stats, I think people are thinking too much. Now, obviously, Deshaun Watson came in, so people must think he's got that ability. If they're hyping him up so much. Am I crazy to think that people shouldn't have him ranked in the top 15 to 20?
Let's put it this way. If that is the case, then holy crap, preseason is going to be like on a microscope, because if he's not even just perfect in preseason, oh my God, people are going to be like, oh, see, knew it, bust,
I don't take too much into account preseason other than if he's getting reps. Now, if he's not getting reps.
But even if he's
because I think when you're in, what makes you a good quarterback is getting in the game and seeing how defenses are lining up. And preseason, they don't give you anything, right? They're not going to show you their best defensive fronts, whoever you're playing. But not to mention if you're playing against backups and whatever the case may be. You might not even playing with your starters. I don't know. Preseason's not going to be where I'm going to see if this guy's doing well. It's going to be in those first couple of games to see if he can manage himself. But I don't know if he can or can't do it, but I'm not relying my fantasy season on a guy who has almost no experience.
True, but we've seen, too, in the past, too, like, these rookie quarterbacks and stuff. And
outside of Deshaun Watson, name somebody.
Cam Newton.
Okay, there you go. That's a good one. But there are not a lot. The quarterbacks that come in and become fantasy relevant in year one. And Cam Newton was also running the ball. And I don't know if Patrick Mahomes can run. They say he's athletic. That doesn't mean he can run. Deshaun Kaiser. Is his name Deshaun Kaiser? Right?
Yeah.
They said he could run, and he just was terrible.
I think a lot of people have confidence in the Andy Reid factor. They've seen what he's done, with other guys.
Because he changed Alex Smith to this fantasy relevant.
He made Michael Vick a passer.
Yeah, sad. Yeah. Yeah,
I think he had some pretty good passing seasons with Atlanta, though.
yeah, but you didn't see a
But
lot.
he wasn't like a pocket passer. Though, with them.
No, but he could throw the ball pretty well. He can make NFL throws. But we're not here to talk about Michael Vick. So what do you got in terms of Patrick Mahomes? We talked about where you guys had him ranked. You have him higher than me, Mikey, 18th.
Yeah, Andy Reid plus the weapons he gets.
He does
brought
have
into.
weapons.
You know,
I don't
it's
believe in
gonna help
Watkins,
him.
but he's got those 3 top guys are incredible.
And he's got a decent offensive line behind him, and he's got really nice hair.
All right,
Always a big part of why you should be a good quarterback. Ask Jimmy Garoppolo, right? Okay, so that's a guy that I'm trying to stay away from. Okay, so we have about 20 minutes left to go. So we can talk about our biggest discrepancies in our rankings. So let's talk about Jimmy Garoppolo. It's a good segue. So Todd has Garoppolo 22nd, so he hates him compared to where we have him at 12, and I have him 12. Mikey has him 13th. Tell us why you dislike Jimmy Garoppolo so much now with the 49ers.
Granted, he went 7-0, but when your season is pretty much over in week 2, you're.
But it's not over for the rest of the teams that he's playing.
I understand that, but like when the team's mindset is like, well, we're not gonna be very good this year. It's kind of just doesn't matter. Let's just go for it every single time. Let's go for it on 4th down, whatever the case may be. And yes, Jimmy Garoppolo obviously showed he can be a franchise quarterback. Obviously got paid like one, and after 7 games. So the thing is, I need to see, if he can do that again, like at least through the first few weeks of the season, then I'll go on the podcast again and be like, I was wrong.
But doesn't it say something? And I could be wrong in this. I'm just talking off the cuff here. But doesn't that say something based on what you just said that they didn't care? They didn't have a reason to win. They were just going out there to see what they have, and for him to do that and win games.
I think it's
different where it's like, okay, we're going to try them, as opposed to they've had a whole offseason to figure out what they got and to practice, implement the system. Does that mean he's even going to be better this year?
I think, too, his mindset's a little bit different, too, knowing he got traded mid-season. He's coming in. He came into a situation where obviously the 49ers weren't that good at the time, and he thought, well, I can kind of the mindset, well, if I screw up, I won't get torched too bad. But he ended up obviously just shocking the world and going 7-0 in those the rest of the season. So I don't know. I have to see if he can do it again. Winning 7 games against some pretty crappy teams too. Those last 7 games he did play some pretty crappy teams, but I just need to see him to do it again because let's see now. Now he has the money. Because let's face it, sometimes when some of these great some players that are trying to prove themselves and when they finally get the money, sometimes that there's a little bit of a drop off, and that's what I'm afraid about in San Francisco. Now it does help the fact he was mentoring behind Tom Brady for a lot of years, so I think that does help a little bit. So
didn't help Matt Castle very much, at least outside that initial season.
First of all, I don't think anybody heard of Matt Castle. First of all, to begin with, I think Jimmy Garoppolo was like. I think that when he got drafted, he like Mel Kiper, whoever it was saying like, wow, he could have potentially been a first round quarterback. So to me, it ultimately just has to come down. Let me see if he can do it again. Now a full season. Now everybody's got tape on him now. Let's see. Now let's see how the expectation shifts now that okay. All right, you're the main guy. You're the main guy in San Francisco now. So let's see what you got now. Now that the rest of the NFL is like, okay, let's knock this pretty boy off his pedestal.
Well, it's not going to matter if you, to wait and see because he'll be drafted by me or Mikey apparently because we're the ones that are going to wait. So this is a chance that Garoppolo could be your starting quarterback. You have him 13th, so if someone drafts a guy and picks their backup before you do, which is definitely possible in our league, Garoppolo could be your quarterback. You cool with that?
I'm cool with that. I believe in Kyle Shanahan and his system. And I also believe that like San Francisco is going to be a team that may still have to throw. Like, what is it that makes everybody believe that all of a sudden their defense is like all great? They're going to be a team that's going to need to put up some points. So
especially in that division.
Yeah. So I mean, I look at Jimmy Garoppolo. Yeah, you know, there's still some questions. I understand that part of it, but I believe in Kyle Shanahan's offense. I believe that they're still going to have to throw the ball. So I believe he's worth taking a shot in that mid-range.
But not any higher than that. Not any higher than where like if you're thinking like, okay, he can be what he was last year in those 7 games, you still wouldn't draft him any higher than that.
I
like
got
in
him
the
at
mid-range.
13th. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's a fringe starter.
And I think a fringe starter with the ability to be a good starter.
Yeah.
For we don't know what his durability is like. We don't know that because he hasn't had an opportunity to show that. I mean, I'm not excited about his weapons, but there are some options there he can throw the ball to. He obviously had a similar weapons to that last year. Obviously, Carlos Hyde is gone, but they bring in Jerick McKinnon, pay him a lot of money. He's obviously shown he can catch the ball, so I think that slips right in. He caught 50-some passes last year from Minnesota. So, but he's not the type of running back that's going to carry you either.
No.
So I think Mikey's right. They're going to have to throw a lot. And just based on that alone, he's shown he can put up some decent numbers. In that small sample size, he put up some really good numbers in those. And he had 33 points versus the Rams, great defense. He had 41 points versus Jacksonville, great defense. 44 versus Tennessee, playoff team. And 30 versus Houston, 27 versus Chicago. So I think he's going to be a little bit better this year, having been in the system an entire offseason to kind of put things together, to get his mind right. And, I mean, Goodwin and Garcon, they're not terrible wide receivers. I mean, they're not elite. They probably don't have a number 1. But, I mean, he was able to put those types of numbers with similar weapons, with Jerick McKinnon kind of coming in now.
Well, you put Garcon and Goodwin together, you probably have a number 1.
Wow. in a different fantasy world, I think. So that's Jimmy Garoppolo. Let's talk about someone else. We talked about Alex Smith. We talked about Derek Carr. We talked about Case Keenum. We talked about Mitchell Trubisky. These are the major ones. Let's talk about Jared Goff. We haven't talked about Jared Goff. I think he's an interesting case as we come up kind of like the last 10 minutes of this show. Mikey has Jared Goff ranked 16th. Todd has him a 12th? 12th, and I have him 11th. So, Goff, give me some of your thoughts on Jared Goff, having him ranked 16th. So, kind of around right outside the top 12 or where they're starting quarterbacks. But what do you see? Are you excited about Jared Goff and maybe him taking he's still a young kid. There's still room for him to develop and get better. Bring in Brandon Cooks. There's a really good opportunity. He can kind of sneak into that top 12.
Yeah, there's an opportunity, but I see him similar to, say, Kirk Cousins.
Wait a minute, number 1 Kirk Cousins? Who's going to throw over 4,000 yards and 35 touchdowns?
Yeah, that guy.
That guy or the more real Kirk Cousins?
I just see the situation similar. Los Angeles. Yeah, I'm going to do that, just like I say San Diego when it comes to Chargers all
for
the
sure.
time.
Yeah.
But the defense is really, really good in L.A. And so he's losing an offensive coordinator. There's that. Mm-hmm. I just think he's not going to have to be that guy, especially with the great Todd Gurley over there and the defense. He's not going to have to be that guy that puts up those 50-point games every week.
He put up a couple last year, though, with that.
He did.
Not consistently.
He did.
But he had the ability to do so.
But you're talking about now a defense that's probably going to be better. They're adding Ndamukong Suh, Aqib Talib, Marcus Peters. Yeah, it's a defense that got better. So I just don't think he's going to have to do as much.
But Sean McVay, who's still there, calls the plays.
Yeah.
And he likes to throw.
He does.
Because I think he wants to get as far away from Jeff Fisher football as he possibly can.
Yeah.
So I still think he'll throw up big numbers. I'm not saying he's going to put up 40 touchdowns, but I think 30 touchdowns and 4,000 yards is pretty good. And I think that's more of the 12-13 range than 16-17 range. But you don't think so, huh?
Yeah, I just think.
I mean, his weapons are the same. and got better with Brandon Cooks.
That's true.
Did they-
Way better than Sammy Watkins.
You're one of those guys that's all over Brandon Cooks.
No.
Overrated.
Remember last year, I was not. I was like, why does he keep getting traded? He must be a cancer. But I'll take him over Sammy Watkins.
Yeah, that's true.
Sammy Watkins is, way different. I mean, as much as I don't like Brandon Cooks, Sammy Watkins, if I saw him on the street, I'd hit him with my car because it's just annoying to watch him play football as a fantasy owner. I'm sure as a regular. Go ahead, Todd. What do you want to say?
He'd hit himself, basically. Sammy Watkins would hit himself because that's how he's got injured. All the times he's got injured, nobody's even been around him, and he's just like, oh, I'm done.
And they have such a good offensive line around him, too. Just 25 times he was sacked. I think there's so much upside for this kid. You're right, though. There's going to be a limitation because they may not have to score 35 points. But I think Sean May likes to score 30.
I think he wants to stick it to the rest of the division too, because he knows now this is it's.
I mean, in that division, you're going to have to score, right? If Jimmy Garoppolo comes as advertised, Russell Wilson can do anything.
But do you think
maybe they need to? I don't know. We'll have to kind of wait and see. But you're right. I think the defense is better.
Well, it depends on.
I don't know. I kind of like Goff. I'm hoping I'm not getting a man crush on him. But just like all the stats I did, it was all really positive.
But I think too,
outside of his completions, which he averages 19 per game, but that just means his touchdowns have to be higher or have to be high. Well, in terms of fantasy, if I want what I want out of him in terms of points, if he's going to have 19 completions per game, he has to throw at least 2 to 3 touchdowns every game, which he may not have to. So I see your point. I get your point.
At least 1 to 2 at least touchdowns in that one, and then at least if some of them are bombs down the field. So
all right, so we have 2 more quarterbacks to go through, and then we'll be done. So let's try to get through these 2 fairly quickly. Let's talk about Cam Newton. Now it's interesting on how we have them all ranked. It's all different. It's all different. So that's why this one's going to be interesting to talk about. I have Cam Newton ranked 15th. And for those who know, I was a big Cam Newton fan a couple years ago. Boy, that changed quickly. Todd, is it Todd that has him 5th?
I have him 5th.
You have him 5th, and Mikey has him 10th. So 5, 10, 15. Todd has him as a top 5. Mikey has him as a top 10. And I have him as a guy I don't even want in my top 12 starting. So, Todd, give us some of your thoughts on Cam Newton. You have him ranked 5th, the highest out of all of us.
The reason I have him so high is, and it goes back to it, and I've said this on previous podcast, I think this Norv Turner thing is going to help him so much more.
Norv Turner enthusiast. Huh?
I know is gonna turn him into a pocket passer, because and again I'm not comparing. I'm not saying Cam Newton, Warren Moon by any means. I'm just saying now Warren did never have Norv Turner as his coordinator, but I'm just saying, when you start to be more of a pocket passer, you're going to put up more yards, which is more passing yards, which is awesome in fantasy, which you want, and you're going to be able to play longer too. And that's just a side note. But I think this is going to help Cam Newton just be more of a complete player. More of a complete player where he's not always counting on himself to run every single time, which is, in fantasy, which is fine. You get running yards, but that leads to injuries, and then you're left with, like I said, at the bottom of the barrel with quarterbacks. So I think this year with Cam Newton, it's going to be a new. We may see maybe a version of him like he was in 2015, but more passing yards and less rushing yards.
Let me ask you a question.
All right.
If Norv Turner came in to my house right now, took you in the backyard, said, Todd, start throwing footballs. He starts teaching you how to throw football. Do you think you could go in the NFL and be a pocket passer? Seriously. No, you can't. No, he couldn't do that with any of us. You know why? Because we can't do it. You know why Cam Newton can't? Because he can't do it. He doesn't we kind of touched on a little bit at the beginning of the show. He's not a guy that's going to make every single NFL throw. He has no touch on his throws. It's always dart, dart, dart. And so that's why he can get it to Christian McCaffrey, and that's why he can get it to Ted Ginn. But that's why everybody else in between.
But I think
sure, you could bring in Jesus Christ himself. If you can't do it, you can't do it.
But I think this point in Cam Newton's career, why not change something up? Why don't change a little bit of it, and maybe that'll make him better?
No, you know what Cam Newton is? Without his running ability, he's my number 20 guy, Jameis Winston. That's what he is. Inaccurate quarterback. That's what he is.
But I think
It's his running ability that boosts him up because you know inside that 5-yard line, he's the number one option. It's not C.J. Anderson. It's not Christian McCaffrey. It's Cam Newton. He's the threat inside that 5-yard line.
Cam Newton has averaged, I saw this number and I was amazed, but he has averaged 7 or more rushing, well, I guess he averages 7 rushing touchdowns per season in his career. That's an incredible number. That's huge. Last year, you ran for close to 800 yards rushing. But the problem with Cam Newton in our league, and that's why I'll have him 15th, is he's not a completion guy. In his 7-year career, he's averaged 18 completions per game, which is not going to get it done.
You've been burned.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But trying to go based on, because who doesn't like the touchdowns and the rushing yards? You get a point per 10 yards. So if he runs for 60 yards, that's a touchdown. That is a touchdown. So, there's a lot to like. McCaffrey's incredible. We'll see what C.J. Anderson does. When he's healthy, he can run. If things work out with Torrey Smith and DJ Moore, and if Greg Olsen comes back, there's a ton of potential. We've seen him carry fantasy teams when things are working correctly. But, man, it has to work correctly. And for me to have 15th, I thought that was generous. And I was thinking, okay, Norv Turner, he likes to go deep. Man, it's been a long time since Norv Turner has been really successful.
But I think.
So I don't know. I'm just not saying. He finished 9th in our league scoring last year, and there was just other guys that prefer to take opportunity guys, more guys that are going to throw more and give me better potential to score instead of trying to rely, because rushing touchdowns are kind of suspect. Maybe one year he has 10, another year he has 7. Now he's averaged 7. That's a pretty incredible number, And for someone, and he's only missed 3 games in his career, which I was incredibly astonished by. But it just takes one hit for him to be gone, and I'm not willing to take that risk inside my top 12.
See, that's why he needs to throw the ball more.
That is true, but I don't think he can. And if he's gonna, and I'm gonna assume he's gonna run more than pass more. Now, if you guaranteed me he'd have 10 rushing touchdowns, I would move him up my rankings, but I'm not gonna guarantee that either. Because there's a reason why you're supposed to get your quarterback more options. Do you do less or don't have to do as much? And, I think Mikey's, that's just part of his game. That's just who he is.
Yeah.
He's not changing the way he throws, and he's not changing the way he dresses, all right? Not for nobody.
And he's going to pout like a baby. That's what
while looking like Mr. Peanut.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Peanut, yes. We got to finish with Dak Prescott. Mikey has him 21st, so he hates him the most out of all of us. Me and Todd are similar at 15 and 16. So this is a guy who in the very beginning of the season, and Todd can tell you because Todd was in the playoff race when Dak everything was going great, and then he took a dramatic fall off the map. Dramatic. So for Mikey, you dislike him more than us. Give us some of your thoughts on Dak Prescott.
And let me say, I don't dislike him, but that coincides with Ezekiel Elliott. This has everything to do with Ezekiel Elliott and the way that Jason Garrett calls games. Jason Garrett is like the guy that his whole point of a game is to just run the clock out when you watch Dallas games. That's all they want to do. Time of possession. Let's hold the ball. Let's run it. Let's be efficient as a quarterback. They're not statistical driven whatsoever when it comes to the passing game.
No.
And not only that, Dez Bryant was losing a step, but he was the best thing that they had. So he's losing Dez Bryant. He's losing Jason Witten. So really, why would you want him?
Go ahead. Answer the question, Todd. Why do you want him?
Why would I? Because I think now having Ezekiel Elliott back, that opens up the passing game. Because when they didn't have Ezekiel Elliott, every team obviously was like, well, they're going to throw the ball because they don't have Ezekiel Elliott to hand the ball off to. But now I think with Ezekiel Elliott back, I think that helps Dak Prescott a little bit more. And I think, too, I think the relationship between Dez Bryant and Dak Prescott probably wasn't the greatest because obviously, let's face it, there was plenty of times we saw on the sideline Dez Bryant pouting like a little baby, saying, throw me the damn ball. So I think now with that gone, I think that'll help Dak Prescott a little bit. Obviously, Dez Bryant to a certain point was an elite wide receiver, But obviously, Eric, like you said, he did lose a little bit of a step last year as well, and the previous year. He wasn't the Des Bryant of old. So I think
Des Bryant was old. He just wasn't up back old.
old, yeah. He was old, yeah.
He was terrible.
That's a good one. But I think now, Des Bryant gone and Zeke Elliott, back in the fold, no more like, oh, am I suspended? I'm not suspended, whatever the case may be. I think that's going to help Dak Prescott and open the offense a little bit more. So maybe the passing game can, kind of come back to form a little bit more than it was, in previous years. So I think now with kind of, some of the old guard leaving now from the Cowboys, I think now it's gonna help. So that's why I have Dak Prescott higher this year.
Do you want to say something? It sounded like you were going to say something.
Not with Jason Garrett there. I can't do it.
I will say, and just based on the stats, that Dak Prescott was better with Zeke in the lineup. He had 5 touchdowns total in those 6 games where Zeke missed. He had 17 in 10 games where he was in there. So it definitely helps to have Zeke in just based on those numbers. Because you're right. People are going to load the box. He's such a handful. Even at the end of games, he is such a handful that people are willing to just let the rest of the team go. But do they have enough to make it worthwhile for Dak to throw? I mean, do they have a deep threat? I mean, they picked up Allen Hurns.
Ooh.
That was 2 or 3 years ago, 1 year anomaly where he was incredible. I mean, Beasley was hurt a lot last year. That's his main dude. So I think him coming back helps out a little bit.
Cole Beasley is their main dude.
Unless
I think you just made my argument.
Or you could say Tavon Austin.
Oh.
That's
Tavon Austin, y'all. He's going to be that scat back.
Yeah. So I think it's,
And it's always been the same thing with Dak, at least for me, is that he averages about 19 completions per game. And again, that's not what I'm looking for in a quarterback.
Good.
I think he has ability, but a lot of his ability comes from rushing. He had 6 rushing touchdowns last year. So if he can run the ball, it's going to be so tough in the red zone unless they give it to Zeke 3 straight times. Who are they going to throw it to in the red zone?
He's a good
Terrence
quarterback.
Williams? He is.
But not a good fantasy
But
player.
not a good fantasy.
Michael Gallup, CSU.
No,
Rookie.
that's enough out of you.
Okay.
That is enough out of you. So is there anything else you want to say about any other quarterback? I guess if you want to mention Andrew Luck, do we think he's going to be ready?
Yes.
No. Next question.
And
Yes.
like I said, I think
Oh, man. We'll talk about Andrew Luck when we know more.
Lottery ticket.
Man, yeah, that's what you said last year. And he was on your team for, what, more than half the season?
And he was. It was a lottery. It was one of those.
You
stretch-
failed the lottery ticket.
Yeah,
you
that's
want
right.
nothing.
But
You held on to that ticket for no reason.
It's right back there again.
Ugh, gross. Okay, here's my last question before we go. So after going through these rankings, and we went through them pretty detailed, I think. I don't know about tied with Kirk Cousins, number 1, but he did do some rankings. If I had to put a gun up to your head today, who do you think is going to be the quarterback you draft? Now, obviously, things are going to change, but let's say we're drafting today, and you had to guess which quarterback you're drafting. Who do you think is going to be?
Andrew Luck.
Oh, come on. You can't say Andrew Luck. He just threw a football 2 days ago.
yeah, people were.
You asked me who I thought I'd be drafting.
My God. So you're telling me you're drafting Andrew Luck in the 15th round because we have 17 total?
Oh, if he's there in the 15th round, hell yeah.
But I'm saying there are other quarterbacks you can pick before him because people are going to pick him as their backup quarterback. So you're not going to pick him as your starter
Why not?
because you're not going to do it.
Why not?
Come on, Mikey.
There's a board bet right there.
People are going to draft him.
Eric loses these board bets. He doesn't want to go there.
That's not a board bet.
or what?
Seriously, Andrew Luck. If I had to put a gun up to your head because we were drafting today, you think you're going to be drafting Andrew Luck?
Yes.
Come on, that doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, it does.
Where do you have him ranked?
8th.
You have him ranked 8th?
Oh my God.
Why didn't I not see this? Probably because I didn't have him ranked at all. No, I had him ranked. Where did I have him ranked? Where's my sheet at? I'm all over my sheet here. I had Andrew Luck ranked 7th. Andrew Luck ranked 17th. Yeah, you did have him 8th. Man, oh man. All right, fine. You can have Andrew Luck.
Yes.
That's fine. It's all yours. Todd, who do you think you would be picking if we were drafting today? Just based on where your rankings are and how the draft would kind of unfold and blah, 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 blah.
I think it'd be Kirk Cousins still.
Yeah, darn right it's Kirk Cousins. It's going to be in the 4th round you're picking Kirk Cousins. You think it would be the 4th round? Where do you think you would pick him? Just knowing,
okay.
and this is where I want you to do your homework this year, okay? I have Kirk Cousins on my ranking list 13th. Mikey has him 14th. So based on that alone, you shouldn't reach for him in the first couple of rounds because you figure you're the only one that has him number 1. So you can wait and see how the draft unfolds. Here goes Rodgers because that's who we picked number 1. So assuming that's the overall. Here goes Aaron Rodgers. Here goes Tom Brady. Here comes Drew Brees. You can wait. And at some point where maybe you think that Kirk Cousins could go is where you should take him. Not based on where everybody else is. So you can wait. And if you honestly, in your truest of hearts, which is tough for me to say, truest of hearts, that Kirk Cousins is going to be the number 1 fantasy quarterback this year, you can't take him in the 4th round.
I'm going to take him in the 8th round.
Okay, that's a little more. But I think, again, you have to watch the draft. Like, if you think that it's getting close, then at some point you have to take him. But, man, I still think it's crazy, but you just can't take him early because you're hurting yourself. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, no one's picking Kirk Cousins in the first 5 to 6 rounds, at least off the top of my head. So you shouldn't either. You think so? I mean, it is our league. He's writing something down. I like when he does this.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, maybe Belt Sanders, but I mean, he can't. I mean, if you like somebody, you take him when you can. But I mean, just knowing that Kirk Cousins is not number 1, you have to wait, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I'm saying. For me, it would probably be Matt Stafford, just because I have him in my top 5. A lot of people wait on Matt Stafford. We've seen him go late all the time. And I just think based on how I like to draft quarterbacks, which usually is between the 7th and 9th and 10th rounds, that's probably if I had to pick it today, I think that's who I would end up going with. Because I'm not going to reach Russell Wilson to have number 4. So I think Matt Stafford, usually his perception is later than 5th. So that's the guy we'll probably end up with. Waiting, but not waiting too late, but having enough confidence in him that I would take him in those 7th, 8th, 9th rounds. So there you go. Anything else? Any last things about quarterbacks? Wait. Because there's so many good quarterbacks. Like, I have Jimmy Garoppolo 12. Kirk Cousins after that. So then Alex Smith, Cam Newton, so many good quarterbacks.
Baker Mayfield.
All right, that's enough out of here. All right, so that'll do it for the quarterback edition of the MHA podcast.
And I just have to say, did you like that?
No, it was terrible. It was awful. I don't like it. There's a bitter taste in my mouth. I want to take a dump right now. In fact, you got to eat your dinner outside because I don't want to be anywhere near you. That's awful. I mean,
it's just
that is
Todd.
wild. You're right. It's Todd. We should have a segment called "It's Todd" every episode because it'd be crazy. So next episode, we'll talk about running backs. So much to talk about in that, so we'll try to organize it and try to get as many running backs as we can. So, Mikey Renault, Todd Diamond, thanks for coming on the show, talking quarterbacks. We'll hopefully do another show in the next couple weeks or so. So, we'll see you next time on the MHA Podcast. MHA Podcast. MHA Podcast.